Hello, we want to greet you. I'm Nayaswami Jyotish, and this is Nayaswami Devi, and we are currently at Ananda Village in Northern California, and we're very honored to be able to partake in this. We want to thank Vasanta Shastri, and we're honored to be able to be a part of this celebration of Guru Purnima. It is a very important aspect of life, of a spiritual devotee's life, to honor the Guru.
And I also want to greet you and thank you so much for inviting us to be a part of your celebration. And we pray that the grace of all the great masters and gurus who have graced this planet may bless your lives.
So in honoring the Guru, let me first introduce our lineage. Our particular Guru is Paramhansa Yogananda, the great saint of India who came to America in 1920 and brought the teachings of the Vedas, the teachings of yoga, and really the art and science of meditation and the spiritual life. He in turn was part of the lineage starting with Babaji, Lahiri Mahashaya, Sri Yukteswar, and then Paramhansa Yogananda. And it was destined for these great teachings of India to come to America and in a sense to take on a kind of a, one might say, very practical explanation of them. So it's not as if Yogananda Ji changed the great teachings of the Vedas, but he explained them in such a way that the modern mind could more easily accept them and perhaps more easily practice them. He said, among other things, that the time for knowing God has come. And what he meant by that is that along with the practice of meditation and the related arts, pranayama, certain attitudes, that the time of an inward communion, an inner communion with God has arrived in the world. In past ages, it was more the time of worshiping God, of doing ceremonial offerings to God. One of the great books that Yogananda Ji wrote was an explanation of the Bhagavad Gita, shloka by shloka explanation. And a friend of ours said something very beautiful. She said about after having read that book, which is called The Essence of the Bhagavad Gita, edited by Swami Kriyananda, our teacher. She said that my whole life I have read the Gita, honored the Gita, but as if I worshiped the Gita, as if I poured milk on a murti in worship. Finally, now, with this explanation, I now am able to drink that milk. Among other things, Yogananda explained that the various characters in the Mahabharata and consequently in the Gita didn't only represent the two sides, the Pandavas and the Kauravas, but they represented our own inner qualities. And the real battle of Kurukshetra is taking place inside of us, in our own spine, in our own subconscious mind. And there's a downward pull toward negativity and an upward draw of the spiritual aspect within us toward freedom and ultimately union with God. And so these great teachings Yogananda brought to the West, but not only for the West. He brought them here because another part of his mission was to show the unity of the teachings of the West and the teachings of the East. So he explained the Gita, as I was describing. He also explained the Bible, and he did that in order to show that the original teachings of Krishna and the original teachings of Jesus Christ are one and the same. It's not as if there are differences, except differences of expression. But all great masters, all great saints are bringing us to the one ocean of realization. And even though one river might lead to one part of the ocean, and another river might lead to another part of the ocean, and those rivers themselves seem separate, nonetheless, they come into one ocean, and there they mingle together. And so the ocean of self-realization, the ocean of union with God, is the ultimate goal of all spiritual paths and the ultimate goal of all individual souls who are yearning for that. And so one part of Yogananda's mission as our guru was to bring together East and West, to bring together what seems to be separate elements. He brought together scientific information and spirituality, and he said they're both just different ways of seeking the truth. Our teacher, lifelong teacher, Swami Kriyananda, had a beautiful image. He said, if you look at an ocean and you see several islands, those islands seem to be separate from each other. He said, but they're like the fingers of the hand protruding above the level of the water. And so the hand itself is not obvious because the water separates them. But as you drain that water, all of those islands become part of the same landmass. And so it is that the various teachings of all true paths lead to one realization. But to continue to honor our Guru as part of the great array of self-realized masters, he also taught that the time has come for knowing God, that it's not time any longer just to worship, but to actually have communion, inner union with God. And so all great gurus are trying to bring us to that. Swami Kriyananda, our teacher, said that the real role of the guru is not to have you worship the guru. The role of the guru is to introduce each of us to our own inner guru, because residing deeply within us is the one God, the one true spirit that inhabits all of life, that touches all people, that touches all paths. And in the touching of that inner guru, we realize, first of all, how to properly behave in this world that we find ourselves in at this time is so disturbed. It's filled with people arguing and fighting and violence toward each other. And we have to overcome that. The path to that is to meditate deeply or do our spiritual practices in order to bring us into a sense of unity. And then in that sense of inner unity that we find within us, then we see automatically that all people are our brothers and our sisters, that all paths are leading toward the same one goal. And in that we begin to cease to fight, and we begin to honor and appreciate each other. You know, laws won't do it. Politics won't do it. You can write 1,000,000 laws, and unless the consciousness is raised, people will only try to find a way around the law. You can have 100 politicians talk about something, but very, very few politicians ever make any permanent changes. One of the ones who did was Mahatma Gandhi, and that's because his political movement raised consciousness. And it is in the raising of consciousness that we see the unity. So each of us must practice our individual teachings, our individual path as given to us by our own lineage, by our own gurus, to be true to that, to raise our consciousness into unity with God, and in that God realization, we will see the unity with everyone else. And so these great teachings are the exact medication that we need for these times that we find ourselves in, where the real issue is our spiritual ignorance, our spiritual sickness, one might call. And so the great paths given to us by various teachers are in order to cure that spiritual ignorance above all. And in curing that, that is how we can change the world around us. God bless you all.
Namaste. And again, thank you for inviting us to be a part of this uplifting discussion for Guru Purnima. And it is such a joy to honor all the great masters who have come to this earth to help us in various ways, in different languages, with perhaps seemingly different teachings, but really on the highest level, all languages, all teachings are one. It's the teachings of love of the heart. And though we may speak of it in different ways, though we may practice it in different ways, it is all the language of love. Our teacher that we've mentioned, Swami Kriyananda, was a direct disciple of Paramhansa Yogananda, and it was through him that we learned and practiced and grew deeper in the teachings of our lineage. And as time went by and as we watched this, we came to this path more than 50 years ago. So it's been a lifetime commitment and dedication and joy. And as we look at the world around us, we see increasingly how the teachings of our lineage, but of all great masters, are so needed. Yoganandaji's guru, Swami Kriyananda, wrote a book called The Holy Science, and in it he speaks of the great ages of humanity, or yugas as they are called. The high age of Satya Yuga, where everyone is united with God. Then the descending age of Treta Yuga, where people are able to communicate through thought. And then Dwapara Yuga, the age of energy. And then the lowest age, Kali Yuga, which is when people's thoughts and consciousness are locked in materialism. And then the ages ascend again. So right now we are in ascending Dwapara Yuga, according to Sri Yukteswar's astrological calculations. And this is the age of energy. And so teachers now are helping all of us to understand the reality of energy and how to use it for our own spiritual growth, through whether it be pyramid energy or the energy of pranayama, the energy of Kriya Yoga. All of these are ways to help us tune in to the subtler uses of energy, because it's only through channeling this energy and raising it to higher levels of awareness through to the Kutastha Chaitanya that we are able to see the world as it truly is, as a play of God, that behind every manifestation there is only God. And so our lineage helped us to use the techniques they brought a technique of energization exercises for consciously drawing energy into the body, and Kriya Yoga for becoming aware of the subtle energy that rises in your spine. But more than techniques, they brought us the awareness that life is meant to be lived with energy and joy, with commitment and dedication to higher principles. And that's what the world needs now. The world around us is saying so strongly, compromise, be practical, think only about yourself and your own needs. And the great gurus come age after age, as it says in the Bhagavad Gita, when darkness predominates and light is diminished, I will come again, taking visible form as an avatar to reestablish virtue and to destroy evil. And that's why these great masters come, to reestablish virtue, all of them with the same goal in mind, to help us to see that through their grace and through our own efforts, we can help raise our own consciousness, and by extension, to help all those who we meet, all those in our life. And it's so needed now. In the Christian Bible, there was a story that there was a city that became very, very evil and dissipated. And God said to one of his prophets, if there are 10 good men that I can find in this city, I will not destroy it. But he couldn't find those 10 good men, and the city was destroyed. But it's important for us to realize this, that those of us who are seeking higher consciousness, even if we are a small minority compared with the population of the globe, nevertheless, a small percentage has more impact than all the thousands of people running after worldly pleasures and self-aggrandizement. And so, my friends, let's join together, whatever your path, whoever your guru may be. There is ultimately only one guru, and that is God. And all the different faces that they wear are just to help us to maybe we can relate to this guru or that guru, but there's really only one God behind it all. And it is our job to find our path, to live it, to breathe it, to become one with it. And so in this age of energy, to use this energy to raise our consciousness, and then as well to bring God awareness into every aspect of our daily life. This was another big gift that our gurus brought. Whether you live in a family with extended family and children and in-laws, whether you live alone in a monastic environment in an ashram, whether you are working in a job that demands a lot of mental concentration, God can be found wherever he has placed us. And so this was one of the great gifts that our lineage, particularly Lahiri Mahashaya, Sri Yukteswar's guru. He was a householder, had 5 children, but he was a fully realized master. And he showed common men and women how they can spiritualize their own life. Jyotish mentioned that we live at Ananda Village, which is, one might say, a large ashram in a beautiful rural setting in Northern California. But every single person who lives here, and there are almost 300 of us, everyone practices yoga and meditation and giving their life to God. And we were blessed to be visited by a Swami a few years ago, Swami Shankarananda of Rishikesh. And he said something so sweet. He said, you can't say that Ananda is like an Indian village, because we have homes and schools and jobs and businesses and gardens and farms and animals that we care for. But he said it's not like an Indian village. It's like a Vedic village where every effort, every action is focused on God. And so we can do this in our daily life, wherever you are, whatever your circumstance, to make all of your thoughts, all of your actions offered up in devotion to God. So we hope that on this Guru Purnima celebration, you can feel especially the grace of your Guru and draw his blessing into your life, that you may grow closer to God, and that God's light may infuse every corner of your life. Namaste. Om Shanti Shanti.